Did I really just start a fucking podcast?
Oh my gosh. All right, this is episode 1 and y'all, I am so nervous. Oh, but I'm so excited. Thank you all so much for being here and for the support that you've been giving me already. Gosh, episode 1. Can you imagine when we're in like episode 300? That shit's going to be crazy. All right, so this episode is called Relationships Failed or Flourished. As you probably know, if you've been following, this podcast is going to be about relationships. So, without further ado, welcome to the Story of My Life podcast. Episode 1. Ooh, okay. I cannot believe we are here. If you're close to me, you know that I've been dreaming about making a podcast for a very long time. This is episode 1, so please give me some grace. I'm a little nervy, but I'm very excited, and we're going to work through the kinks together. Unfortunately, I've had some life events that have stopped me from finding my confidence to do this, but for the sake of not making excuses anymore, here I am. Those excuses, you're going to hear all about them. That's kind of what this is all about. Since naturally, we all sit and yap and complain about all the things in life that affect us, namely relationships, I figure what better outlet to let it all out. So buckle up, subscribe, turn up your volume, and lock in for the next, I don't know, 25 minutes, give or take, because I talk kind of fast when I'm nervous. I want you laughing, nodding in agreement, shaking your head at the audacity. And when it's over, I want to hear from you because, as much as this is about me, it's about you too. Genuinely, I hope that my stories can help some people. And I hope that the people that I have on this podcast will be as honest and real as I want them to be, because this is going to be a safe space. So, what are we going to talk about? Well, life, duh. More specifically, relationships, dating, friends, family, all the things. I want this to be as real as possible, raw and authentic. I'm not editing anything. We're going to laugh through all the typos and stutters and forgive me for the language. It just comes naturally. The best part is this is not scripted. Yes, I wrote some stuff out, but because before I'm a yapper, I'm a writer. And my best words, they genuinely come out through writing. You know, when people tell you that journaling is the way to go, like if you have a lot of thoughts and feelings, like you need to journal, I'm telling you guys, journal, do it, because you will let those words flow and you're going to start writing some stuff you didn't even know you were thinking about. Anyways, let's get back to it. So, basically, what I'm trying to get at here is that yes, I have my iPad. Yes, I'm going to be reading some stuff that I wrote down, but I want this to be real and authentic, and I want to give you my most vulnerable self. So these are all true stories, and I'm not writing a script like I said because my best words do come out through writing. We're going to talk about a lot of hard shit, but also a lot of fun shit. So let's do this. We're all looking for the same thing in life, to be surrounded by people we love, to find love and to be loved. But let's be real, it's not easy. We're all living relatable lives even though they are so different. And to keep it simple, there are reasons and there are seasons, and that's what we're going to yap about. This episode is going to serve more as an intro, which is kind of why I'm reading off a little bit more. I mean, I'm going to come in and ad lib a little bit, but I'm going to try to stick to the intro because I really want you guys to understand why I'm creating this podcast to begin with. So basically, like I said, this is going to serve as an intro, why I'm here, why listen to me? Why does any of this matter? I promise you that things are going to get juicy and entertaining, but I got to kick it off so you have a nice background on who I am and, like I said, what we're doing here. I've been considering writing a book about all my life events because that shit's crazy. They all made me who I am. In the effort of not looking back and recounting every little thing that I went through in like a wrong or negative way, instead, I'm here to share everything that has taught me to move in the right direction. I think right now is a perfect time because I've started over several times, but this time particularly feels different. I'm going to tell you all about this whole starting over situation. Because when I say I had to start over, I really had to start over. But like I said, this time it does feel different. I can confidently say that I found my most confident self. I feel like I love the person that I see when I look in the mirror. I feel extremely validated in the relationships that I have built at year 29. And even though I have been through several more lessons being 29 and single and starting over again in a brand new city, I feel like I'm processing these new relationships differently, more maturely. I think so. Relationships, that's why we're here. And truth be told, it's what we're all looking for. And don't lie to yourself. Everybody wants a relationship, whether it's friends or family or with a man or a woman. Everybody wants to be loved. I can confidently sit here and tell you that I've quite literally felt like I've failed at many relationships that I've had. My track record kind of shows that. Oh gosh. Yeah, each time I've sat back and I've said, God, why me? Literally, like, why? Why does this keep happening to me? I'm just a lover girl, you know? I'm just a lover girl. I'm trying to be loved. I'm trying to love. I have so much love to give and so much love that I love to receive. My relationships with my family haven't always been the most healthy. A lot of us know how that goes, and we're going to get into that some other day. We're going to dive into friendships that were only here for reasons or for seasons, I mean, and some acquaintances. Some I thought were besties for the resty, and then they failed. And then there are the men dating. Like, that's been rough. What even is dating? And why is it so hard? Boyfriends, we're going to talk about them. Well, they aren't here anymore. So I guess the proper label for them, exes. Yeah, failed. Fiance, failed. Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. If you know me, you kind of know what's been going on, but we'll unpack that. Part of the whole why I had to start over. We'll also talk about the healthy ones, the happy ones, and eventually you'll hear from some of those people. I'm very excited because I'm going to have a lot of guests on this podcast. It's not going to just be me yapping away and talking and talking and talking. And a lot of these people are going to have incredibly relatable stories. So I cannot wait to have them on, and I cannot wait to share more about all my bullshit. And why not start with the bullshit, because it is more entertaining anyways. All right, I couldn't help but feel bad for myself after these failed relationships and let every emotion rain on me, suffocating me with the words, "You are the problem." Let's be real, when things happen in your life, I think like a lot of times we tend to say like we are the problem. But in this particular season in my life, something has shifted in me, and I thought, is this failed, or am I false in my thinking that this is actually just another lesson to lead me in the right direction? We have heard of that saying, glass half full, right? I personally have tried to be an optimist my whole life, but some days I am more defensive than positive. And I feel like that's the nature of life, especially when hard things hit you. Optimism is really tough. You can try to convince yourself every day that the glass is half full, but in reality, sometimes the glass is just empty. But whose job is it to fill it back up? I don't want to believe that these lessons were just failed tests over and over, that I wasn't the issue, that something out there wasn't better for me. So many times after all of these situations, I depleted myself of strength and resilience and wanted to just accept the failure and feel bad. But that's just not the answer. When I say something shifted, it was after this latest failure of my life, which was when I left my at the time fiance. I poured my soul into that relationship. I really did. And when I say this to you right now, my heart feels a little heavy because I really poured my soul into that relationship. And I was forced by the hand of God, by my heart, and more importantly, by my therapist. What I knew was right for me. I realized that all these failures, that failure was just a path to do what is actually right for me. How I know that? It's because I look at the life that I've built after this so called failure, and how could I not be grateful? I mean, that season was over. There was a reason for it. And this new season, well, it's brought me here. Finally able to talk about my shit and not in the context of me just shitting on myself. It's not to say that I haven't encountered failure since, but my mindset has shifted. I said, stop with the false narrative, Katie. You did the hardest thing you had to do pretty much all my life. And I did that because I knew that it was right for me. That wasn't the first time either. Yes, my first fiance, but not the first time I had to walk away from someone or people that I loved. What's crazy is that I tell you all of these stories. As I tell you all of these stories, you'll probably be like, damn, this girl has been through a lot. You might even question if I'm the problem. Don't worry, I've already done that for myself. Trust me, I've asked myself that a lot. But what I realize is you can't control outside circumstances and you can't control other people. You can only control how you move forward. And it hasn't always been the easiest for me moving forward. I've circled back and made several of the same mistakes. But again, learning lessons. Shit is sad when things go south, but I know that what God has in store for me, which is marriage, foundation, children, safety, certainty, intention. That's a big one. Providing, even bigger one. Never faltering, actionable, and clear love. The list can go on. Why I know this? Because there are some significant relationships in my life that have not failed. And the times we've created intentional distance was because we mutually knew we needed to do right by ourselves to keep our relationship healthy within those definitions that I just mentioned. I'm sure that that's relatable to a lot of you. Like sometimes we have friendships, even family, or a relationship, a romantic one that we intentionally have to distance ourselves from. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes you go your separate ways. But when you know that you're doing it for the right reasons, it ends up being the right reason. I have a select few I can count on one hand when I talk about these kind of relationships, but that's the intention. I can't spread my heart that thin. I've never been able to do that. I care very deeply that the thinner I go, the easier it is for that person to stretch me so far that I eventually snap or tear. I know that you guys know how that feels when you just overextend yourself so much for somebody because you love them. And then sometimes people take advantage of that. So I have to be very careful and very intentional about my relationships, especially here on out. When I say that, I know whatever makes sense in your brain visually, because I kind of talk poetically, and some of my my closest people hate that about me. But when I say that, it's people will stretch you so far that you'll just break yourself. I really mean that. The ones that broke me are under the failed category, and we're going to spend some major time unpacking that. That's kind of why I created this podcast to begin with, because, like I said, we all go through the same shit, and I want to hear from you. Trust me, we're not going to just sit here and talk about me. You'll get sick of it. But I promise the real entertainment comes when I hear from you. You'll see. We all deal with the same shit, different story. Quick plug, really quick. If you're not already following me on Instagram, go to story of my life underscore, I'm sorry, story of my life. Here I am stuttering already, underscore podcast, and on TikTok. And you can anonymously send me stories. So, like, if you click on the link in my bio, there is a not gonna lie link, and you can anonymously send me messages or stories. And I would love that because best believe we'll be spending some time unpacking those. Anyways, let's get back to it. And then there are those relationships that serve purpose in your life for a reason and a season. Those quick lessons, if you will. These really came for me after my big breakup. the new city I was in, the new me I was discovering, I met a few men that knocked me off my feet. And when I say that, I'm being for real because dating is so weird, especially when you're coming off the back of like, I thought I was going to get married. So, like, the men that I have met, chef's kiss, quality. Some of them I'm like, where the heck were you before I even decided I was going to get married? Anyways, let me not gas them up that much. I'm just kidding. Um, Shout out to those guys though. I'm just gonna laugh too hard about this. Shout out to them because you know who you are. And just a quick little secret, I will be talking about them on this podcast. So I do believe in soulmates, and I found mine in this new place. They didn't take long to show face. I give credit to God for that. He knew I needed them both, and He provided. My girls, I'm so grateful for them. Ladies, if you have girlfriends in your life, and I mean true girlfriends, y'all know what I'm talking about, but girls will get you through. I swear. I'm guys too. Like, guys need a solid foundation. They need a good group of guys, supporters, ones that are going to listen to them, give them actually sound advice, and like talk to them through the emotional things in life. Men are like so weird with emotions. Women, we're just naturally emotional creatures. I think having that kind of support group is so important. Um, and I'm just so grateful for the ones that I've met in this new season of my life. And that's kind of how I know that failure is foe, because when you shift the perspective, you can really open yourself up, and the experiences and encounters that come next, just wow. It only supports the fact that I know I did what was right for me. Whew. You know, complacency, it should be a crime. Do not stay with anyone just because. Like, because what? Potential, fun, connection on 10. I mean, you have so many relationships in your life. You can't be defined by that one. When I think back about my past, I realize like I was with these people because we had so much fun, but that wasn't everything. Going back to that list that I mentioned before, like, you need all of those things. If you're going to spend your life with somebody, you need that. You need intentionality, you need clarity, you need certainty, you need providing, and you need to be able to give that too. That's why I left mine because I wasn't getting those things. But leaving it was like a bulldozer to my heart that I was driving. Now, I want to be very clear that this is not a bashing session. I'm grateful for my ex in many ways. And again, that's all on perspective. I've had some tough relationships, some true breakable ones. Family, that's the hardest one. I mean, these people are biologically programmed to love you. And when they hurt you, ouch. I think that's the best word for it. But really, your chosen relationships are the ones that really rock you. Like, I chose this person intentionally, and this is what I get. Yeah, complacency got me good. 4 years of my life, good. Ring on my finger, good. Wedding dress bought, good. Venue booked, good. Thousands and thousands of dollars, good. When I turned to God is when I really got my answers. I mean, you pray for clarity, and He presents you with challenges that you need to face to learn what that clarity means. Mine hit hard. I won't say I didn't fight for it, but the battle can only last so long when you look around and you realize that you're the only one on the battlefield. Again, this is not a bashing session. I don't believe that saying hurtful things is what repairs you. I can control my tongue and walk with grace, but I feel like the biggest failure was this one. My ring sits in a box in a drawer. Like, that was a symbol of all the fight for the 4.5 years that we were together. And now it just sits in a box in a drawer. It's very strange. When I left, I felt more clarity than I had the entire 4 years. Why? Because I knew it was the right thing. You see, instead of feeling bad for myself, I decided to change the word failure to flourish. I'm still struggling to get back on my feet. I mean, in a relationship this deep, you do give yourself away. I think maybe that's what it was. I had to extend grace to myself because it was time to give back to me. I could say some really messed up stuff, but again, who is that helping? Saying I failed after I walk away is only hurting me. So what's the next best thing? I made the conscious decision for the betterment of my life, and that was to leave. So now for me, this time I needed to be better. You can't control getting hurt again, but if you repeat the same mistakes knowingly and willingly, that's on you. I want to tell you guys everything about what happened to me the moment I left. To think that was my last failure was extremely delusional. But incredibly enough, my dating experiences that followed, even though they ended in their own ways, they healed me. They really did. And they reminded me that my choice to leave was not a failure, that all my other relationships that hurt me, abandoned me, weren't in it for my best interests, all led me to this exact place. These next ones were gifts from God. They were my true healing. This might sound silly because, oh, I'm using others to fix myself, and you never want to do that. Don't be that person that gets out of a relationship and then jumps right back into one. I'm saying, like, get out there and date and, like, enjoy your life, but, like, don't be trying to tell me that in 2 months after a 4-year relationship, you're already in love again. That's not enough time to heal your heart. But you can try, you can get back out there, and that's kind of the point. I'm telling you these stories about how my entire life has gone and my multitude of failed relationships. And like I mentioned, what better way to heal than to try again? Try not to repeat the same mistakes. Learn to love again and let others love you. But for real, that's what life is all about. Everyone's goal is to be loved, like I've mentioned several times. We all want relationship. I guess my point here is that we don't ever truly fail, we only learn. And the ones that break you, if you let them, they can be the reason why you never break again. Instead, you open yourself up, experience the healthy versions of yourself. Maybe the next ones aren't as healthy as you, but how you navigate them can be. Maybe they fail too, but this is really big. You are not a failure for it. I am going to spill some tea here, which is exciting, but kind of nerve wracking. Without naming names, of course, you're going to hear all the stories of my life. But where do I start? I guess we could jump right into the thick of it. Well, we have nothing but time for that. And that's probably going to have to be a whole season in and of itself because that's a long story. But, anyways, not to divert, I want to explain to you how this podcast is going to go. Each episode will focus on a story of my life. Each episode will relate to a relationship in my life. Again, not naming any names, but I'm sure these people will figure it out. If you're listening, this is just my point of view. I'm happy to have you on to talk about it. Actually, I would love that. Let's unpack it together. But really, I will disguise everyone under my own personal nickname because this is a place of safety for my life and I will always protect theirs too. I also want to talk to you. So if you're inspired and you want to yap on here and share your story, please let me know. I already have some prime guests lined up and I truly cannot wait for you guys to hear from them. The audacity of some of these people's stories is absolutely insane. But to be honest, as I'm in this single era of my life, the consistency of the audacity is kind of wild. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so excited for this. As I mentioned already, we're not going to just talk about dating here, even though those will probably be the juiciest stories. But relationships aren't just about guys and girls dating one another. They're also about friendships, the ones we have and the ones we've lost. They're also about family. They're about our everyday interactions and all of us trying to navigate who is meant to be in our lives. Um, I just want to give you a quick background on me. I grew up in San Diego. I was born in Guam. I have a degree in journalism from Fresno State. I'm a published writer. I was working to be a newscaster, but chose the radio instead. Shout out iHeartRadio, by the way. Best years of my life. And years later, that itch to tell stories, to write, it won't stop scratching. So here we are. But I kind of want to do this in reverse. I want to talk about the most recent relationships I've had Because if we start from beginning to now, we might get a little lost in translation. So I kind of want to go backwards. And to be honest, it will start more on a positive note. But obviously, those people aren't in my life anymore. So, yeah, there's an element of failure there. I want to talk about what brought me to this point of finally showing up for myself. Because, like I said, I've had this goal and this particular podcast name for years. Thank God that Instagram and TikTok both had these available, because then that means there's no one else that has this podcast name. So, shout out me and my brilliant creative mind. Like I've said 1,000 times, though, these failures were what led me here to finally following my dreams. So I really hope that I can serve as an inspiration for some of you, hopefully all of you. With that being said, here we go. Stay tuned for episode 2. I'm so excited for this. Episode 2 will showcase my first guest, the love of my life. And you're probably like, what? I'm confused because all the shit that she's been saying is bullshit. She's going to have the love of her life on here already. Oh, man. Just wait. It's going to be a good one. So, like I said, thank you so much for your support already. And if you aren't already following, please do on Instagram and on TikTok. I cannot wait for this to hopefully blow up. You'll be able to hear all the podcast episodes on Spotify. Eventually, I'm going to put them up on YouTube, maybe Apple Music. We're basically a startup here, and I am the director, producer, writer, everything. So, thank you so much for, like I said, for all of your support already. This is going to be so much fun, and we're only going to get better and better as we go. So, welcome to the story of my life. And I can't wait to tell the stories of your life. Bye bye.